Well, I am here with Barry Erwin, Chief Policy Officer from Leaders for a Better Louisiana. Thank you so much, Barry, for being with me again.
Oh, glad to be here.
I always love it when you come here, so I learn so much. So we are about to enter an exciting time. We have sessions starting on Monday. What can we expect to see?
Well, probably a lot. This session's a little different. Every other year we have fiscal sessions, and other years we have general sessions. This is a fiscal session, which means the focus is supposed to be on fiscal issues like tax policy, revenue issues, that type of thing. And lawmakers can have any number of bills on those subjects. But they can also have bills on other things, so they get 5 bills each on like general things. So what we're going to see is a lot, I think, about tax and policy related to fiscal issues. But then lawmakers have other things on their minds, and they have a handful of bills that they can deal with. And so we're going to see a pretty broad stroke, I think.
Okay, so what are the top 3 things? Because I know that we have some hot topics out there that's definitely going to be discussed, or I'm thinking so, that will be discussed in that fiscal session. One of those being, the auto industry and more so Amendment 2, kind of revitalizing that. Talk to us about some of those.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are 3 big things that we'll talk about. We talk about them individually, but one is a budget. That's going to be a big deal. 2 is insurance, because everybody's got insurance on their mind. And the 3rd is that amendment number 2. What's left over? What can they, salvage from those things? Sure. I would start off with the budget and just say that's going to be a really big issue, partially because of the failure of amendment number 2. They were thinking they were going to have some things taken care of, sure. Teacher pay raises being one of the big ones, and some other revenues that would be available for them to spend. Well, it didn't pass, so the teacher pay issue is $200 million. It's still on the table. There are other things that the governor is supporting in his package but are not funded now, big ticket items like in economic development, things like that to deal with. And then, of course, we're hearing a lot about federal cuts. We don't know the total extent of those, but we can expect that to be a big issue as well.
Absolutely. Now, what about things like, you mentioned auto insurance? Or insurance period, what can we expect to see come from that? What are they talking about there?
Well, I think mostly, last year we had a regular session or a special session too, dealing with mostly property insurance. So, your homes and commercial properties and that type of thing. Not much was done on auto. So this time, most of it is probably going to be focusing on auto insurance, which is a big issue in the state. So just this week, the governor kind of came out and said there's a handful of bills that he was going to be supporting dealing, with different issues there. Some of it has to do with medical expenses, uninsured motorists, truth in advertising, from attorneys and that type of deal. And also, having to prove that the injury that you are claiming was caused by the accident and wasn't like a pre-existing condition. So all of those are kind of controversial issues. They don't maybe sound that way, but they are. And there's going to be a lot of discussion about that. I think the one other thing on insurance is there are a lot of bills dealing with either tax credits or deductions for fortified roofing. And we know people really find that to be a very popular program because it does tend to bring down homeowner, residential insurance and commercial insurance rates for your house. So I think a lot of discussion around that as well.
And what would you think would be another big ticket item that will be discussed in this fiscal session?
Well, I think when you get back to that amendment number 2 discussion, one of the things we left on the table, as we just kind of mentioned, was that teacher pay raise. And that was a big deal. There was a mechanism within that was going to fund the stipends that teachers have been getting just for the last 2 years, like 1-year stipends, and make them permanent. But it's a big ticket. It's $200 million, and they want to make it recurring so that they don't have to deal with this every year, and the teachers are guaranteed. So I think we're going to see some of the same mechanisms that we saw there, where we're trying to go look at trust funds that we have in education, use those dollars to pay off a lot of debt in the teacher retirement system. And by paying off that large amount of debt, it creates savings that can then be applied to the teacher pay raise. So I think we'll revisit that discussion. And I think on amendment number 2, there's also been some talk about the savings accounts we have. We have 2 big savings accounts, and both of them have quite a bit of money in there. So there's talk about combining those, which sounds like it's kind of inside baseball, but it would free up eventually some dollars that legislators are really looking to find on the table to deal with some of these issues.
Absolutely. How difficult of a conversation or of a session do you think this will be?
I think it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah.
I mean, the dollar issues are significant. And, you know, they really, the governor's budget, you know, is balanced because it was presented not expecting, you know, the amendment to pass, because that's the way that the rules work. But in the back of their minds, they kind of thought it was.
Yeah.
So that teacher pay raise is on the table. Some of these other things that the governor wants to do in economic development with, you know, site development for, you know, recruiting companies to come in. And we've heard big announcements on some of those things recently. But those are expensive things. And again, the federal dollars, we just don't know what impact that's going to have on our budget, knowing that we get a lot of money from the federal government compared to other states, certainly per capita. So I think all of those, and insurance is always very contentious. So yeah, I think there are going to be a lot of fireworks this time around.
Yeah, I think so too, but we can only wait and see what happens on Monday.
We shall see.
We shall see. Thank you so much, Barry. I appreciate you every time you come here.
Oh, glad to do it.
Thanks
for having me.
Of course.